Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh is brought to you by
Collectible Insurance Services, Eric Hall Aesthetic and General Dentistry, Calder Financial, Grand Management Group, Rydan Investments, Encore Business Group, Jim Hegland of JH Realty, Williams Chiropractic, I-Core, the West Michigan Sports Commission.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh.
Stay informed and stay vigilant.
I forget the phrase. I think that was English Toffee Day. That was a big one for Big G, who is in studio here with me, and he has arrived. He's not celebrating National Pizza Day with a pizza because I believe he has a fast food box that's not
Arby's.
pizza.
It's
Yes.
Arby's.
So, but this is a big one here, Big G. I was hoping that I'd be able to make you mad with my pizza takes, which I'm not sure if I have something like the classic peanut butter on a cheeseburger version of a pizza.
Just stop.
But how do we feel? I feel like the thought of a Hawaiian pizza would make you angry.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
I knew-
Pineapple does not belong on pizza. I don't care. You can fight me. No. No, 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 and shame on you for even saying that.
See, now I can make you angry then, because I do like the Aloha barbecue pizza from Jets. It's a barbecue chicken pizza with, Mom likes that one too. She's in studio and she's trying to convince Big G that it's good, but it's the 8-corner that they normally have, and then barbecue sauce, chicken, bacon, and instead of onion, they do pineapple.
No. No. Absolutely not.
You're outnumbered, Big G, because Mom is saying off mic that she likes it, and she's pointing at you, so you're in trouble now too.
I am most certainly not in trouble. And I am not outnumbered because I'm bigger than the both of you put together.
That we might have to find a scale. But Mom's not really helping me out much with the weight thing there. But okay, so we got a couple questions. So pineapple on pizza, that's already a no, and I've already made you mad. So now you're gonna be angry the rest of the show. But my question, so what's the ideal pizza? What if Big G's building a pizza? Let's just start there.
If Big G's building the pizza, it's going to have pepperoni and ham on it, and that's it.
That's it. Okay, so
That's
pretty simple. Couple meats, that makes sense. I'm kind of in that same category. I like a couple meats and a vegetable, like pepperoni, bacon, and onion, or something like that, or sausage, bacon, and onion. Take 2 of those 3 meats, or all 3 if you want, and then add onion.
Well, if you mention pineapple one more time, you're going to be a vegetable. How's that?
I'm like an onion, Big G. You peel the layers, and they just make you cry once you peel all the layers, and you get down to the.
You don't know how many times you've made me cry on the inside, Ryan. I'm sorry. That's.
We need a therapy session for Big G. We need a couch. Get the couch in here. There's a couch out there. You want to lay on the couch?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I figured we'd try.
No.
But so that's those are good choices. This is what I'm proposing that we ask the guests, because we could ask them their favorite pizza, but that's a little plain. I'm thinking we ask, and we might already have your answer to this, given your strong thoughts on the pineapple thing. I'm wondering if we should ask them what's the worst single topping to have on a pizza.
Oh, it's sardines.
Well, see, that's an easy answer. I don't know if everybody's going to get to that one, though. That one's good, but then if we've already had that answer, maybe we'll encourage them to go a step further. Like, for example, I like onion, as I just said, on a pizza, but as a single topping, kind of overwhelming.
No.
Olives, that would be another one that even if you like olives, that's a lot of olives on a pizza. So I think there's some good answers here. And for you, pineapple, so are sardines worse than anchovies, are worse than pineapple as a single topping? We've trapped them.
Sardines are so awful. They are worse than pineapple. But pineapple does not belong on pizza. Pineapple is an honorable mention. No. No, 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 no.
I think we've trapped him. Night to C4.
No, you haven't.
Well, so but so anchovies is 1 for you, and then pineapple is
1A.
1B. Okay.
1A.
Okay. That makes sense. So that might be a good question. I think we've had pizza related questions, but I don't think because we've had, I forget what the thing of the day was. It was like a specific type of pizza. So I think I asked them how they liked it, like thick crust, thin crust, things like that, maybe toppings. But I like the single topping thing. I think that's kind of an interesting, either if you were to go with the single topping, what would you choose, or what's the last one? Like what's first and last?
As far as the best and the worst?
Yeah.
The best is pepperoni.
Yeah, that one's going to be pretty, I think that one's going to be pretty aggregated. I feel like that's going to be a popular choice.
And the worst is anchovies by a hair.
Over pineapple.
Over pineapple.
That one I think is, those I think are objectively, not the pineapple part, but the other part, those are objectively the right answers, I think, to a degree. As far as pepperoni, and I really want somebody to say pineapple. I'm looking at my guest list to see if I can text somebody.
I will hang up on them mid-interview.
I don't have a Rob Huff on this show. I don't have somebody I do have contact with these people, but they're not like longtime friends of mine like Rob was. But if you hang up on Mike Knuble, things are going to go down, though. He's our first guest. What if he says pineapple? Stanley Cup champion Mike Knuble. I'm
going to wipe his name off the Stanley Cup. I'm going to do it. I'm going to call Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm going to call the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I'm going to say any plaque that's got Mike Knuble on it, you erase it from history.
Well, we'll see. Now I really want him to say pineapple. I really do. I will not text him.
If you text him beforehand,
I will not do it. I promise. I've already done that bit.
Yes, you have, and if you do that, I will walk out of here mid-studio. You will be on your own.
Hey, as I told you, I got myself on air last week successfully. I don't know if I can do anything else, though. So we're just going to burn through, and I'm just going to monologue for 2 hours and probably talk about pizza. I don't know if I'll even get to that. I'll get to some sports.
I'll just throw up.
What'd you think? Speaking of sports, since we've spent 10 minutes on pizza here, what'd you think of the big game here, Big G?
I thought
Big G on the big game.
I thought it was a great defensive battle. I thought it was two really, really stout defenses showing up, especially in the first half. And Seattle finally found a way to break through, and New England scored a little bit too little, too late. But yeah, absolutely good for Seattle.
It was a good story overall. I know that Lions fans, a lot of our listeners who are likely Lions fans, wanted them to go. But of the other stories, this is kind of a good result and a good story. I actually went on one of our guests that we have on fairly frequently, Jace Sweet. He has the Michigan Football Network, and I went on his podcast on Saturday to do some predictions, and I'm pleased with my predictions, Big G, because I actually went very kicker heavy because of the Shane Graham show and because we talked so much about Jason Myers. Shane called him the most pure kicker that he's ever seen. Like, as far as his form, as current guys in the league, that's who he would pick. Right. And so I was high on Myers, so they wanted some betting recommendations, and both of mine were related to Myers, and they both hit. So there you go. So hopefully you took my betting advice here, Big G, and then you can spend it on pizza.
I don't gamble on
I don't
sports.
either. That's why I had a tough time with that, because I was not like culling through the betting lines and going, okay, take the over on this or whatever. But I like those random ones, and I wanted to talk about who they would show first on the TV and stuff like that, or if there was a scoregami in the Super Bowl. Those are the kinds of things that I like to look at for betting lines. But it's just information. I don't bet. It changes your view of the game if you bet. I don't like that. I don't want to root for something else. I just want to root for a good game. I just want to enjoy the game.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to care that the tight end got over 35 yards.
Right. Now, I'll place a bet with a friend of mine saying, okay, I'll take Seattle, you take New England, we'll put $5 on it. Yeah, that's one thing. But, going to a sports book and, bet on who's going to be the offensive lineman to pass gas. Who cares?
Who was it? I didn't see. I didn't see that one. They probably have that. I know that's a joke.
I don't have smell-o-vision, so I really couldn't tell.
I know that's a joke, Big G. But you would be if you looked at these lines. For those that are not familiar with it, like it's crazy what they have lines on. They literally did have a line on which celebrity would be shown first.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Which San Francisco monument was shown first, which I believe it was the Golden Gate Bridge. I think that was the first thing that came on.
Yeah.
Which Gatorade color they pour on the coach. It's crazy what
they have a bet on how long the national anthem's going to be.
Yeah, it's amazing the juice they have in these games. So yeah, I didn't bet, but thankfully one of the other guys on the show, Jace, did I guess bet on the bets we predicted on the show, and he hit on all mine. So I'm at least happy about that. But yeah, no trips to the sports book for me. I just like watching the games and covering them and following them. But okay, so are we settled? Is that what we want to ask? We've got some good guests coming up. We've got Mike Knuble.
You're the host
at 7:15. We've got. I know, but you've already fired me and threatened to leave, so I clearly have no power here. I'm the host. I don't have any power.
You're the host.
So we got Mike Knuble at 7:15. He's our Red Wings guest, a former Red Wings star. Anthony Broome, he'll be talking all things Michigan with us, and then Mickey Jacobs talking some Pistons. So that's our guest list. So we're asking them least favorite single topping on a pizza, I think. What do you think of that? Do you have any other ideas or suggestions?
Like I said, you're the host. This is Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh. This is not Drunken Ramblings with Big G.
But right now, I would watch that show, by the way. But watch it.
Well,
I would not just listen to it because I would want to see it. That's a visual medium.
Well, since I've been sober for 30 years, best of luck with that, champ. So
I had to admit that to actually the folks that ran that podcast because they wanted to play a drinking game, and I was like, I've been sober for 42 years, so because I always was. So hey, a sober pairing here at the helm. So yeah, you could still have the ramblings. We'd just take away the drunken part.
Yeah,
just ramblings with Big G. I'd still watch that. But again, watch it, not listen to it. I need to watch it. Okay, that's not a radio show. That's like a TV show.
No.
We're just brainstorming here. So I'm going with two questions. I'm starting out with, do you like pineapple on a pizza? So get ready. Take get your coat on, take your meds. I don't know what you want to do. But get ready. That's going to be the question for Mike Knuble after the break. And Big G's just staring at me. So I think it's time to pitch it to break. He said break. And we'll ask Mike Knuble if he likes pineapple on pizza after the break. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Happy to bring on this next guest. He's a friend of the show. He always gives us great intel on hockey and the Wings because he played the sport. His sons play the sport. He's got a lot of great information, and as he probably remembers, we like to start out with the thing of the day. So, Mike Knuble, the thing of the day is National Pizza Day. So I have a couple pizza-related questions for you. The first is, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Not my favorite, no.
Okay, well, you have just made our producer very happy. He's clapping into his microphone, if you can hear him. The gentleman you just talked to that got you on air, Big G, he was very mad at me in the first segment because we talked about pineapple on pizza, and he's very angry. So I had to ask you because you would settle it. He threatened to do a lot of things if you said no, which, I mean, you're tough, Mike. You can probably take them. But, I mean, so how do you prefer a pizza? I want to get your preference on pizza, and then I also want to know what the worst single topping to have on a pizza is, because I think that's a unique answer there.
Right. I like deluxe. Like the more stuff you can get on it, the better. I would say meat lovers, but I know that's like not so good for us anymore, But so deluxe still has all the meat, just like kind of less portions a little bit, and then it mixes in a few vegetables and onions and stuff like that. But deluxe is kind of like my favorite. Now, that which bleeds me into the worst topping because a lot of deluxes do have this topping. So sometimes you order deluxe without this topping. So it'd be like like an olive, like olives on pizzas is not. I don't really like that. I love olive oil. I love other olive products, but I don't know. Olives themselves on pizza is not my thing at all. I don't like that. So I'll get a deluxe with no olives.
Perfect. I'll share it with you because that sounds good to me. Because my taste is very similar, and I don't like olives either. So I think that's a very strong choice. So that was pretty good here. Big G's very happy with those answers. I've survived another segment. He threatened to fire me for talking about pineapple during the first segment on pizza. So we're good there. I'm going to survive another segment or two here with Mike Knuble. But glad to have you on here. I'm excited always to talk with you because we got to check in on a few things. I was thinking about saving this for the end, but I'm gonna lead off with it here. I'm curious how the Knuble boys are doing. We haven't checked in on the Knuble boys here and their up and coming careers.
Yeah, well, Cam finished at Western Michigan, right? They won the national championship.
Oh yeah,
there. Cam, our
big
oldest.
finish.
Yeah, so he was part of that, which was a lot of fun. In St. Louis they won and just played some real good hockey. Probably starting this time last year, Western Michigan played really, really well. They're kind of formulating the same MO again, I think, as a group. But really started playing a lot of good hockey like come February and then became unbeatable in March and even probably won a game or two they shouldn't have, but that's what you got to do to win the whole thing. So currently plays in Kalamazoo, the Kalamazoo Wings, down there in Wings Stadium. And the team's been around a long time, like 50 years, there's a lot of hockey history down there, pro hockey history. And so he's learning. It's it's been some ups, some downs, some in between. So I think overall he's enjoying it and kind of enjoying the experience. He kicked around, maybe going to Europe or something like that, but ended up in Kalamazoo, which we've been very happy with. And then Cole, our younger guys at Notre Dame, they've kind of had a little bit of a down year in the Big Ten, and he's been he's been much better the second half of the season. So the team is coming down to the end here, and I think they got Minnesota at home this weekend, but they got 4 or 5 weekends left. But certainly a down year this year in the Big Ten, which is hard to watch, hard to play for them. And you worry about the kids. You just wish they could win a few more games, but they're giving a good effort, and so a little bit frustrating in that respect for sure. But still, he's it's a challenging character a lot as a kid, as a player. When it's a down year, and how to keep fighting and keep preparing and keep training and keep your spirits up and show up and play hard every night. So it's a lot on those kids to throw the school on top of it. It's a lot weighing them down, but they're trying and they're giving it they're learning a lot about themselves this season.
Well, you talked about that a little bit the last time we had you on in regards to Cam, because they had obviously he had to persevere through some things in his career and then ended on the ultimate high note with, like you said, with Coach Furschweiler and the great run that they had to the championship. I'm glad to hear he's in Kalamazoo. I didn't track that, so we'll have to keep track of him here. He must have liked being in Kalamazoo. That's a smooth transition to go from your college town to just playing minor league hockey in the same town. Yeah,
certainly there's a comfort level, and then some people have gone to college after 4 or 5 years. You're kind of like, I got to get out of this town, But there's certainly two different lifestyles. I mean, there's not much crossover. It's not like he's hanging around on campus or anything like that. They keep him pretty busy, and when he's at Western, he played a little bit of forward, a little bit, mostly forward, but he could play some defense too. And Joel Martin, the coach there in Kalamazoo, has called on him to do that at the pro level too. So I think it's been very good for him. He's played center, he's played left wing, he's played right wing, he's played defense. So the only thing he can't play would be goal, because that would be not very good. But he's played all over, and I think that's helped him at this level. And it's kind of helped him stay on the team. And that league, the East Coast League, where Kalamazoo plays, is there's players tend to come and go a bit. They come and they go, they're signed, they're released. So he's made it through, but I think his versatility has kind of helped him out. So I kind of got on that a little bit with Pat and at Western, and it's kind of carried over. So it's kind of followed that reputation, followed him to Kalamazoo Wings, and they've called him on it a few times, to have him play defense. So so you learn in pro hockey. That's how you got to figure out a way to survive sometimes and make yourself valuable.
Have you still been following Coach Pat and the crew, even though Cam's moved on?
You keep an eye on things. You keep an eye on, especially in the state of Michigan. College hockey's been extremely strong. You have Michigan and Michigan State are 1 and 2, and then Western's right in the top 5 there. And so it's great to see, just especially for the younger kids who want to play college hockey in the state of Michigan, or kids from the state of Michigan that want to play in the state of Michigan. It's pretty good run going right now for the in-state schools. So. So I guess you do keep tabs on them. You just kind of have overall looking at the big picture in college hockey, what's going on this year.
Well, I thought you were going to have one less destination to go to now that Cam was out, but I guess you're still going to Kalamazoo and then following Cole on tour for his games at Notre Dame too. Yeah,
we still end up. When they play 70 pro games, it's not like college games. There's only like 30 of them, so they're a little more like events you look forward to. Pro games, if there's 70 of them, you can miss a couple here and there, and it's not that big a deal. But, like last weekend we were in Madison, Wisconsin, and watching Notre Dame play at Madison, and which was a great town, great hockey building these days. They draw, 10,000 people, huge building. They split with basketball and hockey, share the same building, and they get a lot of people there on a Saturday night, that's for sure. So great college town. So, yeah, we are going around, and still every weekend, no rest for the weary. Last year we'd split. We'd be like one night in South Bend, one night in Kalamazoo if they both were home. And now, it's kind of just following one team around the Big Ten. So, and I like it too. I hadn't seen a game in Wisconsin. I haven't seen a game down in Ohio State. So, seeing some places we haven't been yet, this year. So, I'm enjoying that. Every big campus, Big Ten campus, they're amazing in their own way. It's such an unbelievable conference, and the schools that are in there just big time sports, big time money, big time, productions, just, they do things the right way. So it's really cool to go check them all out.
That's what I always say too, Mike, because I went to Indiana University, but there's a lot of good schools in the Big Ten, and they're all Big Ten schools. I think we can get caught up in the rivalries. Well, you went to this school, so this program's not as good, or we're a rival on the football side, or what have you. But they're all Big Ten schools, and it's a very quality conference. Especially now, they're expanding the competition really in every sport, including hockey. They just had the Michigan State-Michigan game, but including hockey with Notre Dame, and all of the competition at really every level in all of these sports is high end, as is the education. So yeah, they're all Big Ten schools, and they're all good schools. It's funny because Wisconsin's the only place that I've actually seen a Big Ten hockey game, even though I didn't go there. So that's a nice arena. Yeah, that has to be fun to do an arena tour for you, since you know those so well, and you can kind of go around and see the different nuances of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, you like to see how they produce games, what they do, and the vibes in each rank. And so I thought Wisconsin was good the other day. And obviously everybody's been to Yost, you've been to Munn. I've been out to Penn State, been, probably pretty much everywhere else, Minnesota a couple times. So I guess Ohio State would be the last one I haven't been to, but we'll catch that one at the end of the season here. But, the schools they put, to see their, and then see the vibes of the campus too, like all the tons of bars, like Wisconsin's got a ton, Madison's got a ton of bars. And then, the lake is frozen out back by the Union, and they're having a big party out on the lake, like their winter celebration. The frats are out there, like with their ice hockey rink, kegs of spotted cow, and their rink shoveled off, and the frats are all out there, playing hockey. Like it's awesome. They embrace the winter, and every school just does things a little bit differently, and it's all cool. It's all great to get out there and see and appreciate all these Big Ten schools, how they operate, and what the experience is for the kids that go there. Not only the athletes, but just the kids that go, and the fun they can have there. And they're have their fun in their 4 years there at college. It's an awesome experience too.
Oh, yeah, that's an underrated one to see live, too, because obviously the focus oftentimes gets drawn to the football programs and then maybe secondarily the basketball programs. But you can't beat a live hockey game, especially on a college campus. So that's cool that you've been able to do that. I do want to turn our attention to the pro side of things a little bit, but we'll take a quick break and then come back with Mike Knuble and talk about one of his former teams, the Wings, and how he thinks they're doing. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Coming back here with Mike Knuble of Red Wings fame here. I wanted to talk some Wings with him because the team is kind of on the rise here, Mike, but I'm curious what you think about them. Now they're headed into the Olympic break, and it's probably well-timed by how things have been going lately, but I'm curious what's stuck out to you now that they have kind of the first full year of McClellan being in charge. He had an off season to be able to get everything in place. I was impressed by what he did last year because he really got on a moving train to get there and not even know the guys' names for the first game practically, and then to have to pick it up mid-season. Now it's clear that they've been able to get some guys that work well in the system and get all of their different plans in place for this year. But I'm curious what's stuck out to you from your expertise here.
Well, yeah, I mean, coming in last year, you look, it's kind of, it's really kind of the same lineup, and they've had some real growth from the inside, like guys like Simon Edmondson, and, he's had a real nice, been a nice addition, really, like pairing with Mo Sider. You get James Van Riemsdyk come in and give them a nice boost, but like their best players have played like their best players, which has really been good. Lucas Raymond's doing his stuff, and same with DeBrincat, Larkins, they're playing their game. Sider's eating up a lot of ice time, doing a good job, staying real healthy. But and they've gotten good goaltending too as well. And so I think maybe that might be the difference. Basically it's two different goalies, from last year, and that maybe solidified things here a little bit because. I think they both have pretty good winning records in that, and I think it's solidified the goal. I think last year was a little bit of a mess in goal. I think the team paid the price a little bit. Derek Lalonde did too a little bit, but this year it seems to be much more consistent in goal, and I think that's a big thing. If you remember, like last year they were mixing Husso in, and then it was like. I don't know who else they had in there. There was a couple of guys they had in, Alex Lyon? I don't know. I don't remember. But
yeah, and then Mrazek was in the mix by the end of the year.
Who was?
Well, then they traded for Mrazek at the end of at the trade deadline.
Yeah, they had Peter Mrazek. It was kind of a mess in net, right? So that was really, I think this year, the guys that have gone this year, basically Gibson and Talbot have really solidified it in goal, and I think that makes a big difference for everybody else. And so I think the teams are super consistent, too. They've had, they've got a run maybe going positively and maybe a smaller one negative here and there, but overall been super consistent, right? And more on the winning side. And I think they've won some tough games. They've won some 2-0, 1-0, 2-0. You go out to Colorado, you get whacked by them right before the break at home, but then you go out there and beat them, and you could conceivably drop. You get to see Colorado twice on your schedule at the end of the season or at the end of this break to the Olympics, and you're like, oh, we might drop these last two games. We don't want to see Colorado twice right before the break, but they end up earning a split, and both teams went on the road. And so that's a great feeling to head into the break and be in a playoff spot. You're a couple points out from falling to the wild card for sure, but that's how it's going to be to the end, right? And so you're going to have this massive sprint to the end. I think it's like 25 games, 24 games, something like that. And it's like in 40 days or something like that, something crazy. And it's just going to be this crazy sprint to the end, and it's going to be exciting, And you're not really going to know where these chips fall till game 82, right? To the end of the day, at the end of the season, you're not, nobody's going to be sure about anything to the 11th hour here, and if you're going to get in or not. But I do think for fans and that, how exciting it's going to be coming back, and you actually have something to watch, and kind of in this funny time of sports world, right? Baseball hasn't started yet, football's over. You want to watch the Olympics going to wrap up here, then you want to watch NHL hockey till the end here. And so I think it's going to be exciting for Wings fans.
Yeah, exactly. I think you made a lot of great points in there. One of them, is the goalie situation, because they really did right size it, I think, this year, because you hit on it last year. Talbot, I think, did the best job he could, but they were leaning on him too heavily, especially given his age and probably how many games he should have played last year. He was just the most viable goalie. They threw all those other guys that we mentioned in there, and it just didn't really work. Then Gibson arrived, but the thing I wanted to focus on with Gibson's arrival, I've been trying to tell people this, but this seems like a good question for you because you moved around some, and Gibson's a good goalie, but he was adjusting to a new situation, a new team. He had to adjust to how the defense was going to be played in front of him, how his team would interact with him, the new locker room culture. And when you move, it's just like any of the rest of us, as far as in quote unquote normal everyday jobs. You when you move, you have to relocate your family, you have to find a new place, you have to do all those things. Sure, you might have more resources to do that if you're a professional athlete, but you still have to do all those things. And so I felt like people were kind of overreacting. I was even saying that on the show when Gibson wasn't playing well in the early going. It's like, guys, you got to give him a little time, both to be comfortable on the ice and off.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a veteran guy. He'll get himself right-sided here and get the ship set right, But I mean, you're trying to be patient in October and November while guys get going and get comfortable. Like you said, they kind of find their groove and the rhythm of the team, and kind of how things work, and know what guys are going to do in front of them, and then as a goalie too. I mean, you got your job to stop the puck and. Get out there and stop the puck, and you can blame other things, I think, but and talk about other things, but eventually you got to get out there and just stop the damn puck. And so, goalies that realize that pretty quick in their careers be like, hey, I can't keep making excuses. I have a job to do, and I got to figure out how to do that job the best I can as fast as I can, changing to a city. But the Red Wing, the leadership there, Dylan Larkin, DeBrincat, Patrick Kane. Those guys are going to make him feel pretty comfortable and bring him in. Sherratt, the older guys, guys with some experience are going to bring him in and make him comfortable. So, but yeah, like he's been a pretty good anchor. Like that reduces the load on Talbot too, and Talbot can play better. It helps him play better too. So, goaltending again is where I think they've made the biggest improvement.
Exactly. And the fact that Talbot's a little fresher this year, I think, is going to help. If Gibson does have to go out, then you've got a fresh Talbot. You've got a lot of guys within the system too. I mean, you've got I felt like that's what we were doing all last year, is talking about the young guys, because Kosa and Augustine and others are looming in this system, but they weren't necessarily ready to be pulled up yet. So now you've kind of right-sized that situation. But you hit on a lot of other important guys on this team. It just does feel like it's coming together. I'm curious what you think of some of the young guys that have been on this team too, because there's guys that have kind of come out of nowhere, like Finney, and there are a lot of young guys on this team in general, and it seems like they've got a good mix between the leadership of Larkin and then Kane and Van Riemsdyk coming over, but then also have a young core that should be pretty sustainable for hopefully a while, as long as they can keep them together.
Right. I think, Finney's the main one. I think nobody saw that one coming, and these days, like when they build teams and salary caps, you got to predict your team through the summer, but he's one that they just kind of slid in there. And obviously with him probably making the rookie, max, he's not like a cap killer or anything like that, but a real nice ad. I think Sandy Pelika's played a lot of games. I mean, he's kind of taking his lumps in his own end a little bit, and learning a lot, but contributing a little bit offensively. And like I touched on earlier, Simon Edmondson is really, solidifying himself as, he kind of came in probably this time last year, probably started earning a full-time job about this point last year. And, he's kind of a unicorn the way he's built, being 6'6" and very mobile, really long stick. And, they don't just make him like that anymore, like very often. And so he's been a real nice bump, Marco Kasper continues to play, they debuted Danielson, and, some of that, and conversely, what people forget is like some of this young play, this really good young play made Jonathan Berggren expendable, right? And so then he gets put on waivers because you have these young guys coming in and trying to take jobs. And so I think privately, like as a GM, you want to see that. That's what GMs want to see. They hate to see a player go and get put on waivers. Nobody's wishing that, but for an organization and that interior growth, as you can call it, is great to see where young guys come in, and there's a number of them knocking at the door, and unfortunately somebody has to get exposed to waivers, and you can't hang on to somebody. Somebody becomes expendable.
Exactly. It's been nice that they've been able to kind of realign both rosters too, because obviously the Griffins are playing, as we know, in this area. I mean, they're playing out of their minds right now, and the talent level has really risen there because they were able to send some veterans down, and I think that helped with some of the young guys coming up. So I feel like that leadership really helped stabilize this team that's already laden with some good players and some young stars, but you layer in those veterans from the wings, and they're bringing a lot of experience down here to Grand Rapids.
Right. Well, I mean, the goal of the Griffins is not to have a bunch of vets down there,
No,
making $2 million and not playing for the Red Wings. That's not the goal. And that's a sticky situation too for Dan Watson. You have, I think they got at times they've had 8 vets there, and you can only dress like 6 of them, and so you got this little rotation that is not necessarily based on merit. So that can be frustrating for guys too. But credit to all those guys. They've given a couple guys a shot. They've given Leonard a shot. Up here. And he came up and did a nice job. So, Gustafson's been up and down a little bit, and so, but, Grand Rapids has benefited big time from having some pretty darn good hockey players spend some time there. And really they already had a nice core group there. And then you throw in guys with, legit NHL talent coming down and playing for a while. All of a sudden you get on a pretty good run. Nobody could have predicted the run they got on to start the season, but it's pretty impressive what they've done in Grand Rapids too.
You make a good point about the trying to balance the veterans, though, because I do think it helps the locker room and everything. But it's not really the way the system is supposed to work. It's almost it's benefited them in some ways, but you do want those guys to be able to rotate back up, and it's nice that they're a little bit more jammed up talent wise, because that does mean they have some depth and can get rid of a guy like Berggren. I'm curious if you see them now. They're kind of in a trade freeze, but there's been a lot of talk of adding somebody, but they also have a lot of depth within the system and a lot of viable guys. So I'm curious if you see them doing anything as far as adding here once they can trade before the trade deadline.
Well, you heard rumors they're kind of kicking the tires in Vancouver, right, with Quinn Hughes. Steve has had a lot of draft picks and a lot of prospects, so that's your capital, right? And you can, eventually, nobody wants to get rid of young players, but eventually, you don't have room for them all, too. You know what I mean? Not every guy's going to play, so if you can lump them in and move them on and gain a veteran or two with it, somebody who's selling somebody pretty, and just cost you a couple prospects that you might not be super sold on. Then maybe you could do that. But I do think for this year, I think they're going to be probably in the buy-in mode a little bit more than they have been in years past. Really going to decide. And Steve will probably have I'm sure he's got an internal timeline. He's like, hey, we come out of this break, I'm going to give it 7 games, and I'm going to see where we'll be at 7 games. And that, I don't know, maybe the trade deadline's in mid-March, early March. I don't even know where, kind of first couple weeks of March typically. So that gives you maybe 5 to 7 games coming out of the break, and then, I'm going to see if we're going to go for this a little bit, So if the right deal's out there, probably not even just for this year, but, I'm maybe catching a guy that they can keep for a couple years, So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think, like I said, it'll be fun for fans coming out of that break. I think it's going to be a sprint, and probably there's, you like to keep your fingers crossed. They'll make a deal or two and try to push the team up further up standings.
I've got to think they're kind of working on that as they're headed into this Olympic hiatus. Obviously all these, it's even like the Gibson deal that was in the works for a long time. They tried to make a shot at that earlier and then didn't get it going until the off season. But like you said, I think your former teammate there, well, a few of your former teammates are working on a bunch of things there in the front office. And it's Friday, March 6th is the trade deadline this year. So I'm sure they're working on things to get prepared. But like you said, I think the fans are are getting a good team this year and a good product, and hopefully they can build on it, because he's not only identified young guys pretty well and put a lot of good young guys in this system. A lot of the acquisitions they made over the offseason, like Gibson, who we talked about, Van Riemsdyk, Appleton, Bernard Docker, they might not be big names, but they've done pretty well within the system. So hopefully he can acquire some more players like that. But appreciate you joining the show, and appreciate the insights and hearing the updates about the Knuble boys here. Are you doing any? I know one of the last times we talked, you were kind of doing another podcast. Are you doing any of that kind of stuff right now, or just kind of focusing on the boys?
No. I was doing that when it was with the Flyers. With this kid, I was trying to help him out a little bit. Incidentally, like Cole's a Flyer. My younger guy's a Flyers draft pick. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. It kind of felt weird doing it. So we kind of put it to rest. And the kid I was trying to help has moved on, and obviously he's trying to make his way in media. So probably he probably adjusted his sails a little bit when pursue a different direction. But I don't know. It's just kind of getting weird. It's just kind of getting weird because my son was a Flyers pick, and then you're talking about the Flyers. I don't know. And my wife's kind of looking at me funny. Like, are you sure you should be talking about this? I go, probably not much longer, So probably not, but it was fine. I was kind of getting into it a little bit, but then all that Western stuff started taking over, and it got kind of busy and hectic, and it just made sense to step away a little bit. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, since if you ever have the itch, since neither of the boys plays for the Red Wings, we've got an extra mic here in studio, so you're welcome anytime, my friend.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, we're glad you could join the show, though. We'll definitely look forward to having you back on when you're available, and we'll be keeping track of the boys and the Wings here and see how they do. But appreciate you joining, and we'll look forward to having you back.
You got it, Ryan. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Take care. Thanks to Mike Knuble. Appreciate him joining us here. And we have survived the first guest regarding the hot button. Big G is giving me a big glare. Big G is for big glare right now. He's giving me a bad look, but we've survived the first guest. But up after the break, we've got Anthony Broome of Wolverines on 3 to talk some Michigan basketball and maybe some football as well. And we'll see how he feels about pineapple on pizza. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Happy to bring on this next guest. We haven't really been talking enough Michigan, both basketball and football, but given that this is the non-football show, we'll still talk football for sure, but definitely the basketball side of things, because this is a dominant team with a lot of fun players to watch and a lot of depth. So we're going to talk about that with Anthony Broome of Wolverines on 3, but we do want to start with the thing of the day here, Anthony, and this has been a very controversial subject, just to warn you, in studio. It is National Pizza Day, and so I've got a couple questions for you on that, but the first one is, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes, but with bacon. You little sweet, little salty, that's the dynamic there.
I don't like you anymore.
That's the voice, just to differentiate. That was the voice of our producer, Big G. That's why it's been very controversial. He's very heated about this issue.
Yeah, pineapple does not belong on pizza. No.
But Anthony, I continue to tell him, and now with you on the line, because he's in studio with my mom and I, we both like it as well, and now you do too. So Big G, you're outnumbered here with the pineapple. I like the pineapple bacon combo. What I was telling him is, I don't know if you've had the Jets Aloha barbecue pizza, but that has pineapple bacon and chicken, and then has the barbecue sauce. That's pretty good if you like a barbecue chicken pizza.
1,000%. Yeah, we are a united front here, I'll say.
We're starting off hot. I like it. The other question. Big G's saluting us right now. The other question I have is, what's the least? So if you were only getting one topping, what's the lowest one? What's the least favorite if you just had one topping on the pizza? We know pepperoni, bacon; those are popular ones. What's the last one?
Gosh, well, I'll say, so when my dad used to order pizzas, he would get the pizza for us, and then he would get one for himself that he knew we wouldn't touch, because he put black olives on it. So that would be my choice for the one I don't want.
We are basically 3 for 3 on olives. I brought it up in the first segment. Mike Knuble also picked olives, and now you're on the olives. I do think that's a strong choice. I don't like olives anyways, but even if you do, it just does seem kind of overwhelming. So perfect. Okay, that hit the mark. I'm glad we have a pineapple fan. Last time we had a discussion like this, I actually texted one of the guests to give the answer that would make Big G mad. I would like to say for the record, I did not do that this time, Big G. This is just authentic.
And you
Anthony Broome.
And you are a liar, pants on fire.
Nope, this is just Anthony Broome, and he's right. I agree with him, and I like the touch with the bacon. I think that's the way to do it. I'd rather have that than ham.
Yeah, I don't need a script to upset people. I do enough of that on my own. So I can promise this is not a bit.
That could be a subject unto itself here, Anthony, because I follow a lot of you guys. That's how I get my information for the show, and that's why we have people like you on the show, because we're a Michigan show. We like to have the local people on the scenes that are on the beats to give us the information, because we try to reference the fact that if you try to go national or if you try to go other places, you've got a lot of aggregation and people that are disconnected from those particular beats. But it also, I do often, well, not often, but sometimes I end up scolding the people that the readers and listeners on this show, because some of the discord online for you guys, the feedback that you get is very unacceptable to me. I'm not as active on the social media side of things, so I don't necessarily have that myself. But the fact that you have to constantly be engaged in that, it's got to be a little bit like a soup sometimes.
You know what? I've always seen it as the platform is a privilege. So I've gotten pretty good over the years, and I've been doing this for about 10 years, where I'm pretty good at tailoring my feed to being what I want to see in it, and also make sure the people that don't want to engage in good faith, I do not see that, because they are arguing with a brick wall because they're likely muted or blocked or whatever. So, at times it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially when it comes to like rivalry discourse, especially in state. But you know what? I wouldn't trade the platform or the opportunity for the world.
That's a good way to look at it. And you do a good job with said platform and cover the sports well. And that's ultimately, hey, those people that are making comments to you, they're still following you. I guess they're seeing your stuff. So jokes on them. But I mean, this has to be a fun time to be covering Michigan sports as a whole, especially basketball, because I've seen every game this year. I've been watching all of the Michigan State games, even as an Indiana alum. We're not that much to write home about anyways. The football season's over, and apparently we're a football school now. Somehow, I'm not really sure how, but this team is incredible. The job that Dusty May has done, turning this team around, getting into the transfer portal, and maximizing the potential there. It's almost reminiscent to me of the job that Curt Cignetti did at Indiana. Obviously, Michigan was at a better starting point, Michigan basketball, than Indiana football, but they kind of used the transfer portal similarly. They get players that are a bit undervalued. They find them that fit their system, coach them up, and I mean now I don't know how you deal with this team as another team. I know they do have the one loss, but it's hard to deal with this team. Yeah, I mean the way you deal with them is you're Wisconsin and you hit 15 threes in a game, and it's still a one possession game, but you find a way to knock them off. It's remarkable. They're deep. They play well together. The optionality they have with the lineups, where they can go small, they can go super big. You know, they start with three bigs every night. You know, Yaxel, Lindeborg, Dymar, and Morez Johnson Jr. So, I think that, you know, if there's one thing I'm struck by with this staff more than anything else, it's the amount of data they absorb and the amount of basketball they watch throughout the year. So, I mean, they're watching games you wouldn't think they would be,
and saying, hey, you know what, if that, you see different trends, you see different kind of archetypes of players, and well, how can we get that to apply to what we do if we brought in a guy like this or that? So, the tinkering, the data that they gather and that they use, and really, somewhere along the line, and it's mostly been a rival talking point, they've developed this narrative or this label as, being a guy, Dusty May is a portal coach and just builds his team of portal players. And well, that's true. I mean, there are a lot of programs that fire the money cannons at players, and just to kind of do it, to say that they have a high price roster and accumulate talent instead of accumulating pieces. And what they've done a really nice job of is not just, being competitive in the NIL space, but it's finding the right chemical mixture of guys to keep this thing moving forward. And now this year, I mean, they look like one of the teams to beat.
They do, and you hit on the depth piece and the variety, because obviously they're known for that big front that they have, because it's hard to miss guys like Mara and Landenberg and Johnson, who I guess I say it's hard to miss him. I do think he gets lost in the shuffle with those other two, because I'm glad to see some outfits kind of highlighting him, because he does get lost in the shuffle. But man, he does all the dirty work. He does anything that needs to be done. He can play up and back, as far as you can put him or Yaxel at the 3 or 4, and you've got flexibility there. But if you've got those 3 guys on the floor with Cadeau and whoever else is in there, a Burnett, a Gale, what have you, you've got a ton of firepower on the bench. I mean, I think you could talk about Kaysen. Cheddar is strong off the bench as far as a bench big goes, but the fact that they're bringing McKinney off the bench and he hasn't even fulfilled his potential fully yet is pretty incredible for this team.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty more or less kind of using a 9-man rotation right now, and those back 4 guys, your number 6 through 9 players could probably start for most teams in the Big Ten. Certainly, probably almost all the teams in the bottom 2/3 of the Big Ten. So, there's a shared sacrifice that's there. It also speaks to, you look back at a guy like Namari Burnett, for example, who, that Michigan State game, he only plays 4 minutes in the second half just because he didn't have it going. Fast forward to a game, and he hits 7 threes and scores a career-high 31 points in a blowout win over Penn State. So you have the ability, you have a roster full of guys that really on any given night, any of them can go off for 20 points or so if they get super hot. And, you'll always have probably 3, 4, sometimes 5 guys who are in double digits. So this can come at you in a number of ways. A guy like Yaxel Lindenborg is kind of a cheat code because he's got the body of a 4-man, but he's basically has a guard skill set when, he can initiate offense but he's also a guy who can go down and get you 12, 14 rebounds. So it's, they've done this 2 years in a row where they found some really, no one thought that Danny Wolf could be a guy who basically looks like a stretch big, just a 7-foot guard, and they turn him into that, and he's a first-round pick. And Yaxel Lindenborg, I mean, may have been a first-round pick if he didn't transfer to Michigan. Now he does, and he just shows off this different skill set that, no one ever saw from him last year playing the 5 at UAB. So, it's a testament to Dusty May. It's a testament to the vision they have, the plan they have for all these guys. And like you said, on any given night, the best team, any given night, a guy can kind of go off and have a signature moment. And we've seen a lot of that this year.
That's the thing. It doesn't even seem like all these guys are necessarily playing at their top potential. That's not a criticism. It's basically a usage issue, as far as if there were less bodies out there, less of a rotation, less star players, you would be able to feature some of these guys a little bit more. You would be able to feature Johnson more, or get Burnett more minutes. Like you said, he's vacillated back and forth. Gale, McKinney's had his big games. So it's a fun team, and it's hard to find the recipe to beat them, because I watched that I watched that game that they lost, but it seems like that would be even tough to repeat that when they do play again in the regular season and then in the tournament.
Yeah, it's kind of an outlier, right? It's night and like we've seen a lot of games, especially in January. Like Michigan played a lot of its C or C plus type of outings, and at worst, you're winning a game still by 1 or 2 possessions. Where most teams in the country, even the elite teams, like their floor is so much lower than that. So when you can come out more nights than not, and not that they play this way, but when you can just kind of out-talent people, but also you have a group that I think they work incredibly hard. I mean, they are non-negotiable in terms of being elite on defense. Like that's been a constant in just about every game this year. I mean, when you pack a defense, home, road, neutral court, otherwise, and that's kind of the engine of what gets you going. When you really have it going on that end of the floor, that's when they really start to hum on offense too, because now you're stealing possessions from teams and things like that. So, like I said, it's just they're just kind of this clinical, robotic, and I mean that in a good way, just this machine right now. And I really think the last couple of weeks they've refound that after what was a bit of a rough January.
They did well. They were playing so well. I mean, they were blowing out teams, and it was inevitable that they were going to hit the skids a little bit, but they've still been so dominant over the course of the season. It's been a fun team to watch, but we got to take a quick break. I want to cover football a little bit in the second segment, because even though we don't do a ton of football on the show, we got to get your expertise there. And I'm liking the coaching hire. I'm curious how they're doing in the transfer portal. So we'll come back with Anthony Broome. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM.
From the GarbarinoRoofs.com studios in Granville.
Country with a twist. Jethro FM. 1530 AM. WYGR Wyoming Grand Rapids. 94.9 FM Grand Rapids. 99.5 FM Lowell. And Jethro South. 980 AM WAKV Otsego Plainwell. 98.9 FM Otsego. And 105.1 FM Kalamazoo. Available worldwide at jethro.fm.
Coming back here with Anthony Broome, talking some Michigan sports here. Basketball team's doing great. The football team is retooling. Got a new coach in the mix. I'm curious how you kind of saw that coaching search happen, because there were a lot of names rumored, and this happens. I always criticize Indiana fans for this, like with the basketball program. There's all these names that get rumored, and it's all the top names, and they've got to figure out if it's a fit and everything. And who they ended up with, Kyle Whittingham, wasn't necessarily the top name or the first name, but I have to think that this is a good fit, given that the program needs some stabilizing, and he's definitely going to be the adult in the room. And he did a very underrated job, in my opinion, in Utah. So giving him the resources and reputation of Michigan, I feel like this is kind of a home run here.
Yeah, it's tough, because I don't necessarily believe in the home run hire. And when it comes to this whole process that they went through, the hot boards that everyone was putting out, including us, it was Kalen DeBoer and Kenny Dillingham, and it was kind of those guys and then everyone else. And 48 hours after the Michigan job comes open, Kyle Whittingham, and it wasn't related at the time, but he steps down at Utah, and then that just kind of winds up being a match made in heaven. And, maybe not the guy that Michigan fans wanted when the search got going, but perhaps exactly what they need in terms of, really when it comes to what they're going to sell, winning the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Like that's not that much. It's really not any different than what a lot of these guys were sold by Jim Harbaugh's staff, and obviously Sharon Moore's staff the last couple of years. But this is a guy who has 20 years of experience doing it. They've always done more with less at Utah. The Michigan resources are probably going to give them more than they've ever had available to them. So, I don't. The thing is, 66 years old. How long is he going to be at Michigan? Is he here for a long time? Is he here for a good time? I think he's going to have them in the mix pretty quickly here, because, like I said, I mean, it's not a direct 1-to-1 comparison, but I could see him having, this Kurt Signetti like sort of sort of impact on them in terms of, being assignment sound, the physicality, all of those types of things. And, with the resources in Michigan and the Big Ten kind of stepping to the forefront here and winning the last 3 national titles, I think that they're going to be in position to do more of that. So it's exciting. I really like the staff that he brought in, and the player retention was pretty darn good. And I like some of the pieces they've brought in via the portal too. So really just I was impressed by, the 2 weeks that they had in the transfer portal from January 2nd to January 16th. The staff arrived in Ann Arbor on January 2nd. So those guys pretty much did more or less kind of 5 weeks worth of work in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or so. And that to me just kind of goes to show that they're going to, they got a plan. They're going to work this pretty efficiently. And then I don't think it's going to be much of an adjustment. I really don't.
I don't think so either. And that's a testament to him and the program as a whole and everything going on, because it does amaze me with the transfer portal and the season, the way that it happens. This stuff happens so quick. I don't know how these guys manage this, where they come in so late in the game, because I talked about this with Fitzgerald coming in at Michigan State when we covered that with the Michigan State folks. And now obviously this happened because of things that happened with the existing coach. You have to bring Whittingham in even later, so he's even further behind the proverbial 8 ball. But it seems like obviously he knows how to manage all this stuff. He's far from new, but it's still just late in the game to all of a sudden go, okay, yeah, I'm here, and by the way, here, let me try to call you. But he's done a great job filling that staff out and getting into the portal, as well as retaining a lot of the key players that Michigan needed to retain, especially Underwood.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I think college football's calendar is an absolute joke right now. The fact that you look at, there have been complaints about the calendar the last few years, and then you see next year's calendar, and there's going to be 2 weeks between playoff games, and we're playing games almost till February, and it's just like, what are we doing here? So I think with, everyone's facing the same challenges. Michigan's battle was a little more uphill, given that, let's call it what it is. I mean, they were programmed the second that Michigan made a coaching change. You knew there were agents and programs kind of tampering and getting in guys' ears. So I really commend both the players and their families and the folks who kind of had to keep things afloat for a few weeks there on getting these guys to just kind of settle down and play, let it all play out and see what would happen. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult to pull off. And now it helps. The nice thing about when you bring a staff over from elsewhere is that there are always guys, if you lose a couple guys, they're going to bring guys that from their old program and guys they're connected to from other stops along the way. And, that helped kind of mitigate. Really, I didn't think there were a ton of huge losses for Michigan, but the fact that you were able to backfill, like I said earlier, and bring in what was, a pretty solid portal class when you look, all things considered, and when you look at the positions that they added. Like I said, I thought they not only made a really good use of their time, I thought that they took a couple days into the portal for things really to get going, but I thought that they're a much better football team today than they were when the portal opened on January 2nd.
They're trending up for sure, and it's going to be interesting to watch. I think, like you said, I think this is kind of more like a Cignetti thing, a guy that's got a lot of experience at a higher level than Cignetti did before he got to Indiana, but still a lot of experience, a lot of maturity, a lot of leadership. So it'll be interesting to watch them this year, and we'll be following your coverage here. We'll be sure to have you back on the show to cover the football and the basketball sides of things here, but be sure to tell people where they can follow you for Michigan information, things that might make them mad, and pizza takes.
Well, a lot that'll make you mad. That's both on social media. Just search my name, Anthony Broome. You'll find me. Still holding on to the blue check mark for now. So you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. We're at thewolverine.com as well. Spend a lot of time on our message board. Really take a lot of pride in engaging with our folks who sign up over there and want to be a part of that. It's really, really awesome community to be a part of. So if you're a Michigan fan and you're looking to kind of scratch that itch and social media is a bit too much for you, our message board is the place to go. We'd love to have you. So, and thank you also for thinking of me and having me on. I appreciate it.
Definitely. We'll look forward to having you back on. And this will be a good team to follow here, the basketball team. I'll be going to the Big Ten tournament. I'm excited about that with all the games that they're going to have, and it's going to be a lot of high quality games because they're going to put a lot of people in, or a lot of teams in the NCAA tournament here. So, but we appreciate you joining the show, and we'll look forward to having you on a little bit later here.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Anthony. Talk to you soon. Thanks to Anthony Broome. Appreciate him joining the show here. He'll be covering both of the sides of the Michigan program here, basketball and football, for us. We're going to turn our attention to basketball. We had the trade deadline pass. We done a little bit of a crossover with the Order of the Blazing Horse podcast with Mickey Jacobs and Harry Morose. Mickey's going to join us here this week to review kind of our work from last week with Harry and tell us about what his thoughts on the Pistons here as they are headed into the All-Star break soon. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Happy to bring on this next guest here. He's on a podcast called The Order of the Blazing Horse. It's a good podcast. I recommend you follow it. It combines kind of some of the elements we like to combine on the show. It's information heavy as far as the Pistons go, but they have some comedy elements to it. And so we like to do that on our show, Mickey, as you probably heard Harry's appearance, and we like to celebrate the thing of the day. But this is becoming very controversial, and I think you're going to kind of serve as the tiebreaker, although really it's not breaking any sort of tie. Big G is just outnumbered on this. But my producer, Big G, is very passionate about this particular issue, but it's National Pizza Day. And so the first question is, does pineapple belong on pizza?
I got to go yes. I do partake in a Hawaiian pizza from time to time. It's not my go-to pizza. I know this is a controversial topic, but I am in the pro pineapple on pizza camp. So I'm sorry if we just lost a lot of listeners right there.
Well, I think we're fine on listeners. We lost one in studio because Big G just threw his headphones on the floor at that take here. He's just outnumbered. You're outnumbered, Big G. You're very passionate about this issue, but we haven't had a single person that's agreed with you about your hot take.
Hey, Mike Knuble did, so stop.
That's true. Mike, I think you texted him. I think you were up to that this time. You had his number from the call sheet, so you texted him like I did the last time to get me back.
I most certainly did not.
Mickey, this is a good story. We had a similar discussion like this, very heated discussion, because it was National Double Cheeseburger Day, one of the show days, and I told Big G that I had tried peanut butter on a cheeseburger, and he got very mad at me. I didn't like it. I just had seen it on a menu and decided to try it, and he got mad at me somewhat similarly, but I texted the next guest and told him to say peanut butter on a cheeseburger. So now he's skeptical that I've just texted all you guys and done that. If I had done that, Big G, I would have done it with Mickey. Even though we haven't had much contact before this, I felt like he'd be able to pull it off, but I didn't do it with him. I didn't do it with any of them. But the other question, Mickey, is what is the least favorite? Like if you were to get just one single topping, what's the worst single topping on a pizza?
Yeah, I don't like a wet tomato. Because sometimes you'll get a margarita pizza that's got tomato on top, and that can be good, but when it's a sloppy, wet tomato, that's a no-go for me.
Interesting. That's a very specific answer. Okay, we've been getting basically olive pretty much every time.
I get that. Olives can be subtler, though. I feel like a big, sloppy, wet tomato, nobody wants that.
You've already got the tomato sauce, too, so you're adding that into the mix. And I get it. I don't do a ton of margarita pizza, but I get it. So yeah, okay, well, Big G's going to be mad through this segment here, but that's.
I'm sorry, Big G. It's time to expand your mind. It's 2026. We're ready for pineapple on pizza.
Get with the times, Big G. Come on. He's now not paying attention to me, so I'm just yelling at him from the emptiness of my microphone over here. But no, we're excited to have you on, Mickey. Like I said, I like the podcast a lot. We had Harry on to preview, and I'm curious if I'm sure you probably listened to the preview. We didn't call the move. That's unfortunate. We didn't. I was hoping we would predict whatever the trade was. That would be very tough, especially with the Pistons, because I think you had a feeling they weren't going to necessarily go according to plan, quote unquote, with what a lot of the media was reporting and the rumors that were going around. I mean, I remember that time frame where Anthony Davis was rumored to the Pistons, but nobody actually connected to the Pistons was really confirming that in any way, and it seemed like kind of a poor fit. And then they had the other kind of 3-and-D big guys that were rumored to them, but they did end up getting rid of Jaden Ivey, unfortunately, because Javen Hunter, his dad, is a friend of the show, so we're kind of sad about that. But what do you think of the trade and of the deadline as a whole? What would you give it as a grade here?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been able to predict it. I did not have Kevin Huerter on my bingo card. And I've had some time to think about it. And the more time I have and the more I think about it, the more I like it. I want to say B+. I would give it a B+ probably. And there were rumors circling. You're right. Omari Sankopa II with the Free Press wrote a piece about how Michael Porter Jr. made sense on the team. I know a lot of people were in that camp. I personally was not. But as far as what Trajan Langdon said he would do, I think he held really true to that. He talked about prioritizing continuity, not making a big swing. And last deadline, he made little moves around the margins. I think we got Dennis Schroeder for free, basically, and he ended up being huge for us in the playoffs. And so we got Kevin Huerter. And I know a lot of people aren't super psyched about it just because his 3-point numbers are down, but he's 6'6". His 2-point percentage shots are at an all-time high. I think he's like 63% on twos. He plays sneaky good defense. I remember the last time the Pistons played him, Tobias couldn't back him down with his patented turnaround fade. And he can go get a bucket. So ideally, I would love to see his deep shooting touch get rehabbed. But even if it doesn't, I think we have another bucket getter that we desperately needed. And I really think the big priority of the deadline was Danis Jenkins. And I want to say congratulations to him on the highest single-season conversion ever for a two-way player. Really exciting stuff.
That's a really cool story. Yeah, I want to go back to that in a minute for sure. With the Huerter thing, I'm completely with you on a lot of that. I was not, and I told Harry this, I was not in the Michael Porter Jr. camp. That would be a very tough sell for me because I get the theoretical fit. I get the fit if we're playing NBA 2K. I think in the actual NBA, I don't think it's as great of a fit. It could be. That doesn't mean that it's going to be doomed. We don't really go with hot takes on this show. It's just the idea that I do like what they have culture wise, and I do get that they need somebody that's a big that can shoot like Porter Jr. I think you've got something good going, like you said, and they valued the continuity, the culture fit, and unfortunately, I do think that was a little bit of the trade with Ivy. I think they identified somebody in Huerter that will only be a value add. He may not play. We'll see how consistently he plays in general, but I do think some of those metrics are going to improve for him. But on the Ivy side of things, I think he's going to be a good player in the NBA. I think he's got a lot of talent, but it was hard for him to find a fit for a myriad of reasons on this team, including the fact that he had the unfortunate back-to-back injuries. He got on what I've been constantly calling a moving train with this team mid-season, and it just wasn't working well. It wasn't a disaster, but you could tell he just wasn't feeling good. It almost felt like he needed a fresh start, and I don't know what that would have meant for his ability to be re-signed. That's the part that I was worried about. And so I hope he does well. Obviously, he's playing for a rival now, but I do hope he does well. I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think he's going to work hard at it. But it wasn't a good fit for a team that went from, hey, who's going to play on this team and start for this team 2 years ago to, oh, we have maybe one of the deepest rotations in the NBA now.
Yeah, I love Ivy too, and I really wish the best for him. I watched the Chicago-Denver game recently just to sort of check in from across the league. I have a lot of friends in Chicago. I went to school in Chicago, so I really hope this ends up being the best thing for both parties. And I think in that game, he actually had his season high of minutes. So it's going to be a really good environment for him to get a lot of run, get his feet underneath him, and just sort of show what he can do. But you're absolutely right about the timing, and I think it was the right move. And I think Kevin Huerter, in a worst-case scenario, he's expiring. So what Trajan has done is he's brought in someone who can hopefully get us buckets, and either way, we're flexible still. So it's a good position to be in. But, I mean, so many great Ivy moments. He had a couple huge game winners last season and was a part of us turning things around and really wanted to be here. I remember when he cried getting drafted. It just meant a lot to this rebuilding squad, and I wish him the best.
Me too. And as far as the Herder side of things, that's the part that I really think they did get some value, as far as they did give away a piece, and they did give away somebody that I think is going to have value, but it's not necessarily from their side of things with the contract being in flux and not necessarily being able to re-sign them. But on the Herder side of things, it's funny because you talk about the 3-point shooting being down, and I just look at that and I think, look at these teams that he's been playing on. Now he gets to play with Cade Cunningham and the rest of the crew. I think that's going to return to the mean, so to speak, pretty quickly for Herder, because that's what I know. People were sad when Beasley wasn't able to be re-signed. Some people wanted Hardaway back, but the idea is, we're seeing it with Duncan Robinson and others, Cade is the type of player that's going to raise a shooter's percentages for the most part, because he knows where to get him the ball, how to get him the ball. And so I just think once they get the flow of the game going, Herder's numbers are going to go up pretty much automatically, because there's got to be, it's almost like you have to add a little boost for playing with Cade Cunningham, just finding you in the right spots.
100%. I think Cade makes his teammates better. You know, you see it with Duren, just constantly feeding him lobs, pocket passes, and with shooters, he always wants to find them on the perimeter. And yeah, last year we had Hardaway and Beasley, and this season Duncan's been our only real volume shooter. So look, whether Herder knocks him down or not, he's going to get plenty of great looks. And I think the nice thing about him too is that he still has a reputation in the league. He is both a volume and movement shooter. So I think we're still going to enjoy the benefits of the gravity that he commands and the closeouts that he commands. He's still on the scouting report. I don't think anyone thinks that he just doesn't shoot the ball well anymore. And yeah, any improvement that can be made in that department will help this team in a major way.
The team's so deep to begin with, which is incredible. I mean, like I said, the depth is really pretty remarkable for what they started with and where they came from 2 years ago here, because there are a lot of guys that are playing themselves onto the floor. But we got to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk some Danish, because his name has changed over the course of the season. Some Danish Jenkins. I have to retrain myself for that, because he's a great story. I've been following him for a while. I've been talking about him on the show for a while, actually. And so I'm pleased to see him finally get converted and get what he deserved. But we'll come back with Mickey Jacobs of the Order of the Blazing Horse and talk some more Pistons with him. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Here with Mickey Jacobs of the Order of the Blazing Horse podcast, talking some Pistons. And I love talking Danish Jenkins, because I was talking about him when he was in Summer League and playing pretty well a couple years ago, and we have Chad Bush on the show pretty regularly, play-by-play guy for the Crews. So we've been talking about a lot of the we kind of nerd out on the G League team whenever he comes on, and it's just such a great story. And I do think it's I think it's part and parcel with the discussion of Jaden Ivey, because they, not so long ago, as I'm sure you remember, Mickey, there was a lot of talk, well, okay, there's not really a lot of secondary ball handling behind Cade. What are we going to do? We've got Ivey getting into the mix, but he hasn't filled in there. And now we swung from that to, what do we do with all these guards? We don't have, we've got 96 minutes between the 1 and the 2 spots. Cunningham's got to play a lot of that, at least a third of it. And so what do we do with the rest of these minutes? And that's the equation I always try to push on people, because they'll say, well, this person should be playing more, or we should do this at this position, but you're going to have certain minutes for certain guys. Thankfully, this is a rotation that's good with the ever-changing minutes they receive, some of them. But that's really part of what I think that what made them more comfortable to say, yeah, it's been hard for us to get Ivey back into the rotation, not because he's not a good player, but because the rotation has been very strong without him, especially because of the emergence of a guy that was supposed to be a two-way fill-in guy, and he's been one of the higher performing guards in that rotation.
It's such a cool story. We call him the Jankyard Dog on the podcast.
I like it.
We love Danis. But yeah, no, he's stepped up big time, and I love that Trajan, really kind of made him him and Herter are kind of the centerpiece of the trade deadline, and the team so desperately, as you said, needs additional ball handling besides Cade. We saw how important Dennis Schroeder was in the playoffs, and he's really a point guard. We had Sasser kind of playing some backup point last year, and Sasser's a really efficient scorer, and he, by the way, did fine. But Danis just really loves to move the ball, loves to attack, and just force the defense to collapse and create opportunities for his teammates. He gets some clutch buckets. He's a 3-level scorer. A lot to like from this young guy. And yeah, we've been watching him since like a couple summer leagues ago, and it's like, wow, he looks really interesting. And you never know if someone's just a killer in the G League. Like, I don't know if you remember Saban Lee was just like G League MVP, unbelievable, kind of struggled to find his footing in the league. But it's really cool that Danis is doing it in the NBA as well.
I agree. And yeah, that is a good comparison. Yeah, it's Saban Lee. And then obviously, in that same time frame, you had a guy like Killian Hayes that had talent. I know people now he's like kind of a curse word for Pistons fans, but I mean, you can see his talent, and then you saw him down in the he's kind of roaming around the G League, but there are certain things that translate to the G League pretty well. But man, Danis is almost the opposite. He was a very good player in the G League, but his game transfers to the NBA so well, because the things he was doing well in the G League, he's continuing to do well, even with lower usage, because that's what it really all becomes when you're in the G League. You get guys that are, maybe they're like fringe players. They're two-way players where they're good for G League players, but on the back end of the bench for an NBA roster, which is typically where you're going to find yourself. And if you're lower usage in the NBA, it's harder to find your way. But his usage has varied greatly. When he's filled in for Cade, he's been able to take the reins and do well as kind of one of the primary guys. But he also can come in there and fill a rotational role very well, because there are things, even watching him play a lot in the G League, there are things he's doing in the NBA. It's like, man, he's even more athletic. He's forcing himself to go faster, jump higher, do some things athletically that he wasn't doing in the G League. His defense has been very impressive. He might be kind of an awkward size, but given the fact that you've got Cade, who's bigger, he's getting in there and getting in the mix defensively, to where he's kind of getting, you've got that top tier of obviously Thompson, and then you got Holland that fills in for him, but you've got that whenever Javonte Green comes in, I just assume every ball is going to get tipped. No matter where it's going, it's just going to get tipped by Javonte Green, and he's going to make a mess of it. Danis is almost in that same category. He wreaks havoc out there when he's on defense too.
Yeah, he plays really hard. And, like Ron or any of these guys, he just has that Pistons attitude about him. And you hear him talk, especially after getting the contract. He's very humble, but, every player that got drafted ahead of him, he resents that. And he shows that on the court I'm going to show you why I should have been drafted. And it really comes across. He really wants to win. And that means a lot. And he's, I think at 6'4", is he the smallest guy on the roster, like on the regular roster? He might be. And that's, it's another nice thing about getting Kevin Huerter is he's a bigger guy, like a 2'3", with some size. But yeah, Danis is so much fun to watch, especially against worse or like mediocre defenses. Sometimes he'll struggle against better teams, which, who doesn't? But I'm really excited to see what he can do with a real contract, with a real role that he himself carved out. It's an awesome story, and I love that it's a homegrown kind of thing. He earned the opportunity, and I'm really excited to see what he does with it. Because when we got Dennis Schroeder last season, his shooting splits were not good. He was shooting something like 40% from the field and 30% from three. And then he shot up in the playoffs and was shooting like 48, 49, 47, 81, had a really good assist to turnover ratio. Danis is shooting right now 39% from deep already, which is just, as we've said, Duncan's the only real volume shooter, but not only do we need guys who can knock it down, we need willing shooters. And he has certainly proven to be that.
Exactly. Yeah, he's like you said, he fits in very well, and that's what they want for this team. Yeah, he's obviously Sasser's shorter than him, but I brought up the roster, and Sasser's shorter, but as far as weight goes and size, Jenkins is obviously less filled out. So he's listed at 6'4", 165, which would be by far the lowest weight on the team for sure. But he doesn't show it when he's out there. I don't know if he's playing at 165, but who knows? But he's playing a lot tougher than that and a lot bigger than that when he's out there. So it's a fun team. It's a fun team to cover and watch. I'm curious who else has stuck out to you over the course of the year, because there's a lot of, I ask this question of a lot of the analysts that come on, and I feel like there's a lot of answers that you can give, because obviously Cade is trending towards an MVP candidate. He's an all-star starter. Duran has come on. There's some obvious answers, but there's also a lot of depth players that have played well on this team. So I'm curious who else has stuck out to you other than Danis.
We were talking about this on the podcast. Cade's having an unbelievable year. He and Duran are both all-stars. We really feel like it's the year of Stu. Isaiah Stewart is just the heart of this team, and the rim protecting season he's having, I think he's getting enough minutes now to finally be considered for all defensive awards, which it's just a travesty that he hasn't before. He had a great season defensively last season, but he's also just gotten so much better at finishing. His hands, his touch around the rim, his left hand, him in the post, like he is so essential to what the Pistons do. And I think he's going to be huge, especially in the playoffs. We missed him so bad in the first round against the Knicks last year. As far as I'm concerned, Stu is untouchable in any trade, really, except for like one or two guys. I also know a lot of people have been really critical of Asar just because of how he struggles with offense. I think his defense is, first team all defense as of right now, and just so important to what the Pistons have done this season. He's a big part of why we're the number 2 defense in the league. And even though he's not a great scorer at this point, his disruption creates so many buckets for this team. And I just think that's the core of Pistons basketball, is defense to offense. But I just feel like so many great buckets come from disruptions made by a star: steals, blocks, maintaining possession, pushing the ball. I have to give him his flowers, because I understand it's frustrating when, he can't knock down shots or, has no 3-ball whatsoever. But I still love him and think he deserves respect. And yeah, there's so many more. Obviously Ron is incredible, and just like Danis has that Pistons ethic about him. There's just a couple Ron Holland signature plays that we've come to expect, whether it's just snatching the ball out of somebody's hands or forcing offensive fouls on screens. He's just so savvy in his second year. And again, not the greatest shooter at this point, but I still think there's so much potential there. And I'm so glad that Trajan didn't make a panic package some young guys trade move, because as cool as it would have been to get a starter, there were a couple names I thought would have been cool, but I think he's smart to stick with it and just sort of accumulate flexible pieces that support this exciting defensive core.
Exactly. And you hit on the main name that I'm always praising, which is Isaiah Stewart. He got a little heat when he was first there because they were trying to find, I think, a role for him, but it was almost like he was a victim of his own success to a degree, because they figured out he could shoot a lot better, I think, than they expected earlier, but then it wasn't quite good enough to be as dangerous as they wanted it to be and as much of a weapon. And then, that he did have some issues with some of the softer skills, that the hands, things like that. But he has obviously worked to improve. And for as frenetic of a pace as he plays at, he has gotten a lot better on the catch and on the footwork and being able to use both hands and all of those things. So people don't understand that basically he's putting up a case to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, but the only thing that's holding him back is the fact that he may not qualify because he may not average enough minutes, which makes the case for Defensive Player of the Year even stronger, because he's not getting the minutes to put up better numbers and better stats.
It's so true. And you were talking about our depth, and I think it speaks to the team's progress of just how exciting the bench is. I remember a couple seasons ago, we would get these all bench lineups and I would just be like dreading it. And now I'm excited about it. They have so much energy. There's so many guys that can contribute on a big level, whether it's Ron or Stu and other things I used to dread seeing, like the double big lineup. It's worked a lot. Stu and Duran have played well. And, I'm not saying Stu should play 35 minutes at the 4, but it's absolutely workable. Whether JB thinks he's best off down low or he wants him to space and take threes, it's nice to have the option. And I think he's one of those players that's just gotten better every single season and just added something new and improved like pretty steadily.
Exactly. I'm a big Stu fan, and I agree on Thompson too. He's just got to find the right level of aggression on offense. He's got a lot of the footwork, he's got a lot of the moves, the athleticism, and I think that'll come in time. We have to remember that these guys are pretty young, just like people that were ragging on Duran. Yeah, he looks like he's about 35, but he's but he's a young guy still. So is Thompson. So, but appreciate you joining the show. Great stuff. Be sure to tell people where they can follow you and the podcast, because I definitely highly recommend it.
Yeah, check us out. Order of the Blazing Horse. We're on YouTube. We stream live, but we're also on Spotify. Everything else, we're on Instagram. Please give us a listen. We talk hoops, but we also have fun and goof around and play games, get some fun guests. But thanks so much, Ryan. This was such a treat.
I'm glad you could come on. I want to have both you guys back, and be sure to tune in to the podcast there, because it's a great listen. And we'll look forward to having both you and Harry back here in the future.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Mickey. Take care.
Likewise.
Thanks to Mickey Jacobs. Appreciate him coming on and talking some Pistons. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back in studio because we got to check in with Big G. He's thrown his headphones at one point. He's been showing me different fingers on his hand. I won't mention which one here. It might have been a thumbs up. Who knows? We don't know. Maybe now he's just staring at me. So we're gonna check in with Big G, see how he's doing, see how he feels about the show, and then we'll close up the show and hopefully both be alive by the end of the show. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Want to thank all of our sponsors here: Collectible Insurance Services, Eric Hall Aesthetic and General Dentistry, Calder Financial, Grand Management Group, Ride In Investments, Encore Business Group, Jim Hegland of JH Realty, Williams Chiropractic, iCore, and the West Michigan Sports Commission. We'll be having some reps from those different sectors here, especially the West Michigan Sports Commission. They've got their luncheon coming up, so be sure to tune in to that and check that out. I'll be there. Should be a good speaker here with Dr. James Dixon, and It should be a good event, so check out all the good things they're doing and the rest of the sponsors. Encore, we'll talk about that more on Thursday, but they've got a big consignment group that came in for a bunch of Chicago gear. So any of the Chicago fans like Rob Huff out there, be sure to tune into that. But yeah, be sure to follow all those sponsors. Appreciate their support here. Got to check in with Big G because I think he's throwing a little bit of a fit over the pineapple situation. He's now finished his food. But you didn't even celebrate National Pizza Day, Big G. So your opinions on National Pizza Day are invalidated because you were eating a roast beef sandwich.
How do you know I didn't have pizza earlier on in the day?
Did you? And what was on it if you had it?
Pepperoni.
Did you have a pepperoni pizza?
I did.
From where?
It was a DiGiorno.
Oh, took too long to answer. I don't believe you. I feel like, so it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. You had a DiGiorno
earlier? Is correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. Can we get evidence of this? Can you send a picture of the pizza box or something? No?
I will send evidence of you in a box in a second.
Is it going to be like a Seven situation? Did you ever see that movie?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, the what's in the box. That's what we're going to have.
Yes.
Well, I worried that we were both going to survive this segment. It's not looking good. We got 8 minutes to go here, but I want to. Okay, so you gave me a good idea earlier, Big G. You were talking about how I'm the host of the show. I'm the name on the show. I want to do ramblings with Big G for the last segment of the show. So that's officially the segment that we're in right now. So what does Big G want to ramble about?
This is a family show, so. What do I want to ramble about?
I have one thing that I think you might want to talk about because we talked about the Super Bowl a little bit, but I don't think we've talked about the offensive coach acquisitions for the Lions here. So I'm curious I'm curious about your Lions thoughts. We haven't checked with you on that.
Very strong. Absolutely very strong.
It's funny how I always kind of laugh at the reactions of the aggregated reactions of fans where they have a tendency to overreact on things. And the Petzing hire happened, and everybody was kind of freaking out.
Everybody was freaking out because they wanted Mike McDaniel. Got to have Mike McDaniel. Got to have Mike McDaniel. We must have Mike McDaniel. He's a genius. He's Mike McDaniel.
This is usually the voice you use for me, Big G. That's how the fans sound to you too. They sound like me. No, it's true though, because McDaniel, I was saying this before they even chose not to hire him, and I think Campbell kind of showed this. He's a very diplomatic guy, but Campbell interviewed McDaniel and basically decided that it wasn't a good fit.
Right.
It's not that he's not a good offensive mind. He is. It's that I don't think he was a good culture fit for the Lions.
No.
And I tried to tell people it's either going to happen one of two ways. You're either going to end up with him being successful and then he's going to immediately vault himself back to a head coaching job.
Yeah.
So he's out in 2 years, or he doesn't work out very well and it's an Anthony Lynn, John Morton situation where you have to replace him, and neither of those is good. So it's like a lose-lose. With Petzing, the fact that he doesn't have that kind of reputation coming in. I think he's got a good reputation around the league.
He does too, yeah.
But it's more so I think you got to look at what these coaches were working with. McDaniel was working with Tyreek Hill and I mean that whole myriad of running backs that he had, Achane and Mostert when he was a pretty solid player back in the day, and then he had all these other receivers, Waddle and Tua when he's healthy, and he didn't really do much with that with those offensive pieces, whereas Petzing was still staying competitive with offensive pieces that would not start anywhere in the league. They were backups for Arizona that wasn't strong in the first place. He had the uncertainty of Kyler Murray at quarterback. He was playing guys like Jacoby Brissett and Josh Dobbs. So I liked the hire in the first place, but the guy I wanted was Mike Kafka. And once they hired him to be an addition on the staff, I mean, that's a home run, because I don't know how that guy wasn't hired to be an offensive coordinator. So they were lucky to get him on the staff as a whole, because as Campbell highlighted last year, they do use the entirety of the staff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was shocked, number one, they didn't hire Mike Kafka, and then I was pleasantly shocked when they did hire Mike Kafka. You know, it was like, you know, putting pepperoni on a pizza and then, you know, coming to your senses and then taking it off. So
okay, I like this. See, this is why we have to do ramblings with Big G. I like this as a gateway back to the thing of the day. Who's the equivalent of pineapple on a pizza from this analogy that you're doing? You're having Petzing being pepperoni on the pizza, and then, you know, or Kafka's the pepperoni, and then Petzing is, I don't know, sausage or ham or something.
He's something like that. And John Morton was the pineapple.
But Morton's the pineapple? Oh, no.
Morton's the pineapple.
Sorry, John Morton. But that means, so does that mean, if we compare him to the pineapple, that he's just an acquired taste? He's not a taste for you, but the Broncos picked him up. So Sean Payton likes pineapple on pizza. This is the conclusion that I'm drawing from this discussion.
You're weird.
I mean, that seems like the logical conclusion of this whole conversation. Talk about Drew Petzing, Mike Kafka, all the Lions moves. That must mean that Sean Payton likes pineapple on pizza. I think that's just the logical conclusion to draw here.
Well, that's why they couldn't beat New England. It was because Sean Payton likes pineapple on pizza.
You know, Mike Vrabel doesn't like pineapple on pizza. He doesn't seem like a pineapple on pizza guy to me at all.
No, but he's also going home in second place too.
Shout out to Seattle. I mean, that team, not the most likely, but we had been talking about them on the show forever, about how that division was very strong all year. I don't know how I think it's just the West Coast thing, which to me in football is kind of criminal, Big G, because you can't, it's like, okay, well, we don't see them as much on the West Coast, but they're in the same time slots. It's not like basketball where the games are on at 10 o'clock at night here Eastern time. They're still on at the same time slots. They're still the 4 o'clock window.
4 o'clock game, yeah.
And that's not bad. Or they're the 8 o'clock window. It's not like they play at 11 o'clock Eastern time. They play at 8 o'clock Eastern time, if they're in the night game, or if they're in the Sunday night game, Monday night game, whatever, or the 4 o'clock window. So it's just kind of odd to me that the Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams all kind of were under the radar. It felt like kind of all season, especially the Seahawks, but they deserve to win. They're a strong team. We'll see what they do going forward, but hopefully the Lions will be back in the mix now that they've exchanged pineapple for pepperoni and ham.
That's right.
There you go. Full circle.
That's
there.
right.
So now Big G and I are on the same page, and hopefully he doesn't murder me in the parking lot here now outside the studio. But no, appreciate you joining us. A fun show. Had a fun discussion about pizza. I appreciate Big G putting up with me for 2 hours now, and the whole pizza discussion. So nice work, Big G. Appreciate it.
Well, I think I deserve hazard pay.
We'll talk to the station about that and see if we can get that for you. But appreciate you joining the show and keeping us on track, or trying at least, with me. Mom's hanging out with us in studio. Appreciate her doing that as always. And be sure to tune into the rest of the lineup here. We got a lot of good shows coming. We got the Sports Project from 7 to 9 on Wednesday. Shane Graham's Extra Points is 7 to 9 on Thursday. You got the Sports Project again, 10 to 12 on Saturday. And then be sure to catch the Polka Pops and the All Request Show on Saturday as well. But until next week, stay informed and stay vigilant. Have a great week.